Marrying into wealthy dynasties, old money, and crazily rich billionaire families might be a dream come true for many. But for some, these dreams come with heavy costs, permanently taking away their freedom. These are the touching stories of 10 women who married the men of their dreams but ended up with a very sad life that kept them legally trapped and hidden for life. Number 5 and 2 are so tragic, it would make you shed a tear. But number 1 is something else entirely. Number 10. Jang Zetian, the milk tea princess. It was 2009 when Jang Zetian became famous. At 16, photos of her holding a cup of milk bubble tea had become a meme on TV. Zhang never tried or wanted to go viral, but it seemed her photo had what it took to capture the hearts of everyone. And less than a month later, she became known as Sister Milk Tea. Using the extra money, she worked hard and got into Tsinghua University. This was one of the most competitive schools in China. But when she realized there were bigger opportunities calling for her in America, she applied for an exchange program to study at Barnard College in New York. Everything was going well for her at this time, from brand deals, media appearances, model gigs, and promising investments in the fashion industry. But all that was about to change. By late 2015, many of her fans were shocked by the sudden announcement that she had gotten married to Liu Qiandong, the founder of JD.com. At the time, she was 21, and her husband, one of the richest people from China, had just turned 42. And while many questioned why this came all of a sudden, Zhang's world had now quickly expanded beyond the fashion industry. Now she is hosting international galas, attending every big philanthropic event in China and being invited to the same dinners as Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg. But these opportunities came at the cost of her brand, and all the work she had built up until that time had started fading into the background. Like that wasn't bad enough. Then came the catastrophic year of 2018. Breaking news of her husband getting arrested in Minnesota for gross misconduct went viral overnight, causing even more strain to her brand and businesses in the coming weeks. Contracts stopped coming in, and interviews became non-existent. Thanks to the shady marriage deals she signed up for, divorce was not an option for the foreseeable future. On a legal level, she was bound to play the loyal wife sticking to her husband. And in less than 5 years, she turned from a fashion star to being forever known by the internet as the younger wife of a much older man who cheats on her. Now brace yourself, because we're just getting started. Number 9. Empress Owada, the woman who gave up everything. Though many details are kept close to the chest, if all the rumors are true, then Masako Owada's story is one that shows the heavy cost of giving up lifelong ambitions for fleeting promises. She grew up in a very busy family that always moved for different business trips. Her father was a senior diplomat who was called to work in different countries, and by the time Masako was 15, she had absorbed multiple languages and lived most of her years in the United States and Russia. Thanks to her hard work, she arrived at Harvard and graduated magna cum laude in economics with skills unmatched anywhere. At this point, she could speak Japanese, English, French, German, and Russian fluently. And with these skills, she got graduate work in international relations at the University of Tokyo, enjoyed a brief stretch at Oxford, and in 1987, a position at Japan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But everything changed when she met the Crown Prince Naruhito. He had allegedly pursued her for years to her refusal, but 2 failed proposals and many dates later, she said yes. Whether it was when she got assurance that her marriage to the imperial household would support and protect her career without interfering with her businesses or later on, nobody knows for sure. Whichever the reason was, they got married in 1993, and she left the foreign ministry. She had now stepped into the imperial household agency, one that always controlled what members of the imperial family said, where they go, and how they are seen in public. What came next was a slow erosion that played out over the next few years. In 2001, a time when the family desperately looked for a male heir, she gave birth to a daughter, Princess Aiko. The rejoicing only lasted a short time, and what came next was immense pressure. Slowly but surely, her appearances began to thin out. And by 2004, the Imperial Household Agency itself confirmed she was being treated for a stress-related illness tied directly to the pressures of adjusting to imperial life. The next time she was seen in public was when her husband Naruhito became emperor in 2019. Now, thanks to her current duties as empress, Masako's diplomatic career is in ruins, never to be revived despite the promises made before they got married. However, the next woman on our list is a very different story. Number 8. Rosmah Mansour, From Modesty to Greed. Growing up in Kuala Pilah, Malaysia as part of a middle-class household, Rosmah Mansour went to the University of Malaya where she studied sociology and anthropology before crossing the world to Louisiana State University for her master's degree. This was a big deal for a woman living back in the late 70s, and by the early 80s, she had her full credentials and a promising future. But her life took a big turn when she married the powerful and ever-ambitious Najib Razak. He was not prime minister when they got married in 1987, but was a shrewd politician with strong connections among the higher-ups of that country. For years, she was seen by everyone as modest and quiet. Her public presence was lost, and everything about her was tied to her husband's rising career. Everything changed yet again in 2009 when he became prime minister. Almost immediately, Rosmah went from the quiet one to perhaps the most talked-about figure in the country. She was at every major state function, fully embracing her office as the First Lady as every other person wild. Except she did it in ways that made most Malaysians very uncomfortable. Her exposed spending habits were beyond concerning, even for a First Lady. From luxury handbags to the most expensive jewelry. Many watchdog groups waited for the right moment to sue her, especially in light of the shady financial deals going on at the 1MDB State Investment Fund. And the right moment came when her husband lost the 2018 election. A quick investigation by authorities found the family guilty and raided all their properties. They found and seized Rosmah's luxury bags, necklaces, and bracelets, amassing a total worth of almost $300 million. She was charged again in 2022, leading to a major case many believe would cost her at least 10 years in jail. And just like that, she had gone from the First Lady's office to the Malaysian courtroom. Our next person, however, had a life in London with a career and future that had nothing to do with what she became. Number 7. Asma Archrus, the Desert Flower. Asma Archrus was born in London back in 1975 to upper-middle-class parents. She grew up there, went to King's College, and graduated with a degree in computer science and French literature. After getting her degrees, she went straight into investment banking. The first one she got into was at JP Morgan. There, she worked on mergers and acquisitions for a few years. This was far from an entry job, yet she showed more promise despite having little to no experience in the field. In 2000, she married Bashar al-Assad, a man who had just become president of Syria shortly after his father's demise. Without a second thought, she departed London, leaving her old life behind and moved to Damascus. Unbeknownst to her, things would get a lot worse. In her early years as the First Lady, she was loved by the people of the land. After all, she was deeply influenced by her Western education and values. Her speeches showed deep concern about many of the things typically ignored by those in power. Almost every week, she spoke about education and rural poverty, female rights, and rural poverty. She gave interviews to international outlets many believed to be deeply opposed to everything Syria stood for and handled difficult questions in ways that pleased everyone home and abroad. The Syria Trust for Development was founded in 2007 through her efforts, and the focus was on helping young people and the communist large. Syrians loved her, and the outside world was almost unsure of what to make of her. Skeptics tried to ignore her. Supporters called her the single rose in the desert. And then came 2011. The time when the Syrian civil war kicked off. That event showed that the beautiful desert rose had more thorns than petals. Though it seemed she was powerless to do anything during that state of emergency, the next year showed she was more apathetic than cautious. Realizing this, the European Union sanctioned her in 2012. The US followed shortly after. Her travels got restricted and her voice was sealed. Except she wasn't even trying to speak out and help in any way she could. Years later, Asma was diagnosed with breast cancer, and in 2024, it was disclosed that she was battling leukemia. The special image she had was gone, and so was the life she built before getting married and leaving the UK. Number 6. Nita Ambani, the hidden cost of wealth. Born to an average Indian family, Nita Ambani trained in classical Indian dance from the time she was young. This is a hard skill that takes several years to develop as an adult, and after finishing her commerce degree, she got a job as a school teacher, modest but well-earned so far. Those close to Nita at the time would later describe her younger self as someone who loved living a quiet life. She loved having time to rest and play with young children. That explained why she deliberately pursued her job as a school teacher despite the much bigger opportunities available to her. But that lasted only before she married Mukesh Ambani in 1985 at 21 years old. This man was the son of Dhirubhai Ambani. He was the head of one of the most powerful companies in India. He was also the culture's definition of Prince Charming, but what her life looked like after that seems impossible to describe without large numbers getting in the way. The family's home is regarded as one of the most expensive dwellings in the world. One floor is a large snow room designed to artificially produce winter during the hottest weather. Another is a private cinema designed to host at least 50. A garage with 158 cars and over 600 staff taking care of the entire facility. Their son's wedding decades later cost over $500 million. But compared to what she craved before marriage, her days are now heavily occupied by work, and those close to her express concern about how she always appears exhausted in public appearances with a tired smile. But if you think that was dramatic, the next might change your mind. Number 5. Suthida Tudjai. From flight attendant to the king's general. Born in 1978 in Hat Yai, Thailand, Suthida studied communication arts, built her qualifications, and went to work for Thai Airways as a flight attendant on international routes. Despite how average it sounds, this career was the kind that required composure and discipline, even during critical situations. Except she was very good at it, so much so that she got the attention of King Vajiralongkorn. What came after that was a transition that reads like a soap opera. In a matter of weeks, she moved from her job to the royal security and was soon brought into work as part of the Royal Armed Forces. When brought in, she quickly rose through the ranks until she was legally able to join the Royal Guard, where she could easily have access to the king. From there, she joined the Royal Security Unit, and by 2018, she attained the rank of general before serving as deputy commander of the unit responsible for protecting and looking after the king. Given how fast she rose through the ranks, many weren't surprised when news broke in May 2019 that she was now queen consort. Many read it as her ultimate ascent, a story of ambition that wrote itself. But then a photograph circulated of her prostrating in front of the king in a way that didn't land well with the rest of the world. A closer look revealed that the king had multiple wives and consorts. This means that although Suthida is the queen, she exists within a court structure that doesn't revolve around her. The strict rules of the palace indicate that she loses everything the moment she displeases her husband, and she's always walking on eggshells to prevent that from happening. Number 4. Kim Lim, rich and twice divorced. Growing up as the daughter of one of Singapore's wealthiest men gives you a lot of things. Clearly, a sense of direction isn't always one of them. Ask Kim Lim, the one who came up in Singapore with a last name that opened every door before she could knock. Her father was Peter Lim, a billionaire listed by Forbes and recognized as the owner of Valencia Football Club in Ocean. Being born into that kind of space comes with a firm gravity, one that makes it hard to stand out for what you want, as your last name always tows you back to the family brand. Among the choices she was able to make was moving the aesthetics and wellness industry. She built skincare clinic businesses across Singapore at a time when the cosmetic industry was still rapidly growing in the region. She had a loyal following on social media and built a personal brand around beauty and lifestyle. Despite the strong demands of her last name, Kim Lim proved early on that she could make waves on her own. Sadly, the world took a different view, especially following her marriage to Jeremy Ng, a young and famous Singaporean businessman. However, the real story lies in their subsequent divorce. Even though they had welcomed a child together not long after marriage, the union seemed doomed to fail. They separated in late 2019 and finalized the divorce in 2021. Kim, the one who initiated the divorce, said it was because the marriage had lost its spark and felt more like a habitual duty. But just a few months later, Kim Lim got in a relationship with Leslie Liao, but the world didn't know about it until September 2021 when they announced their engagement. They got married in February 2022 on the all-twos date, but got divorced just 2 months after the wedding. She later said it was because her husband was a different person after marriage who easily lost his temper. They fought every day, and their divorce was finalized in 2023. After that, she reported being afraid of getting into new relationships after 2 failed marriages, but she had become a laughingstock on the internet. Number 3. Christina Ong, a success gone silent. Though she built the famous brand her country is known for, most people have never even heard her name. Meet Christina Ong, the woman who built a fashion empire but is never publicly known for it. With the right amount of money, she started Club 21 in Singapore, buying high-end European labels into Southeast Asia at a time when that market was still struggling to grow. From Armani to Donna Karan and Prada, she was the one who understood what luxuries sold the best before the industry blew up, and she wanted everything. She wasn't as hidden as she is today, but was well known among hundreds of investors who saw potential in the luxury fashion industry. The result of her endeavors was the Como Group, a massive business marked by lavish hotels in the Maldives, Bali, London, and Bhutan, with the best wellness resorts and spas. This woman had it all, but not all things are destined to last. Shortly after this, Christina found someone with similar taste, and not long after, they got married. This man was Ong Beng Seng, a Malaysian-born Singaporean billionaire. His company, Hotel Properties Limited, held major hotel and real estate assets across Asia. And while this union of business and intuition made perfect sense on paper, things were a lot different in practice. Slowly but surely, her identity was absorbed into the larger family business. Christina Ong had spent over a decade trying to build something that was hers entirely, but now she's no longer the one doing the talking. Worse yet, the world barely knows she's the one behind the brands dominating the market today. Number 2. Mavis Khoo-Oei, the hidden burdens of inherited wealth. What happens when you don't build the empire, but get born into it and never have the chance to define yourself? Ask Mavis Khoo-Oei. But to understand her place in this list, we have to revisit one of the most iconic buildings in Singapore. The Goodwood Park Hotel. It was built over 120 years ago as a German club, survived 2 world wars, Japanese occupation, and colonial transitions before becoming Singapore's most recognized heritage homes. Khoo Teck Puar, one of the country's most important banking elites, bought and turned it into the business it is today. Mavis is his daughter, and what she inherited was immense wealth that came with intense scrutiny and legal battles tied to her father's older operations. Life got even more complicated after she got married to the Indonesian businessman Oei Tjasian. Things only went downward from there, with immense inheritance pressure for both of them, declining fortunes, and an increasingly uncertain political and economic environment. Her husband's family had already been through before she ever entered the picture. And as we'll see, their story was quite tragic. The Oei family built their wealth in Indonesia across some of the most unstable decades in the country's history. After Indonesia gained independence in 1949, ethnic Chinese entrepreneurs like Oei Tjasian found themselves operating inside a country that kept changing the rules on them. In 1959, new government regulations pushed Chinese-Indonesian businesses out of rural trade almost overnight, and families that had spent generations building commercial networks had to restructure or take the loss. Then 1965 arrived and everything got harder. An attempted coup triggered one of the bloodiest political upheavals in Indonesian history, and the ethnic Chinese community bore the fallout. With assets at risk, physical insecurity, and a climate where the wrong kind of visibility could cost you everything, building anything during that era required knowing how to survive literally. Under Suharto's new order, things stabilized on the surface, but the pressure never really left. Chinese-Indonesian businessmen could operate and even prosper, but only by maintaining careful political relationships and managing exactly how prominent they appeared at any given moment. One wrong move and decades of work could disappear. And then 1997 hit. The Asian financial crisis collapsed Indonesia's currency and took entire businesses with it. The following year, riots tore through Jakarta in May 1998, and Chinese-Indonesian communities were targeted directly. Properties were destroyed and families displaced. It was the worst single moment in a lifetime of difficult moments. Hsien Loong died in 1999, just 1 year after surviving all of that. He spent his entire life protecting something that the country kept trying to take. What he left behind came with every bit of that history attached, and his wife has hardly been seen ever since. Now, let's get to the final part of the countdown. Number 1. Ching, peace in the midst of chaos. For 17 years, she was one of the most powerful investors on the planet. Yet today, most people outside Singapore can't pick her out of a crowd. Meet Ching, born in 1953 and emerged as a graduate of electrical engineering from the National University of Singapore. She went to Stanford for her master's degree, and her early career was in the Ministry of Defense. Those early years were spent in the rooms where strategies were drawn out and critical decisions were made. She married the ambitious politician Hsien Loong in 1985 when he was already a rising figure in the People's Action Party. By 2004, she was hired as CEO of Temasek Holdings, Singapore's sovereign investment fund. Thanks to the strategic decisions she made, the company would rise in value to over $380 billion. Ching's brilliance kept her in that position for 17 years, and she took the fund's expansion into global markets across different sectors from health to infrastructure. But that's not all. Everything seemed to be going just fine until 2021 arrived, and several things happened in a compressed period of time. Out of nowhere, she stepped down as CEO and a successor was appointed immediately. Some thought it was because she was getting old, but things didn't add up after news broke out that the successor had resigned after just 2 months. The company she had struggled to build for almost 2 decades was slowly beginning to crumble. Life at home wasn't easy either, as her husband was getting into open fights over their father's properties and political offices. Despite controlling one of the largest investment funds on Earth, Ching is famously low profile, carries a $10 dinosaur-shaped pouch instead of designer bags, and operates behind absolute state-level security. And after 2 decades of painful struggle as CEO, Ching permanently plays the role of senior advisor to the company with 0 public appearances to avoid scrutiny. Which of these stories hit you the most? Which of them were caused by bad choices or circumstances? Let us know in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to her status for more videos like this. Now click on the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.